Hello friends, I'm reviewing Elton John's Jewel Box. I've already done two videos looking at his first two discs, which were his own selection of deep cuts. Today I'm looking at disc number 3, which deals with rarities between 1965 and 1968. We've got 23 songs here, some of which would go on to feature on the Regimental Sergeant Zippo collection. Quite a lot of them are piano demos, some of them are band demos as well. Now, I've got to say, it's one of those collections which it's really good to have as an Elton John completist. Having said that, and having listened to these songs several times, I've got to say, most of them, although it's good to have them, I probably wouldn't want to necessarily listen to them again. However, it's interesting to hear these very early recordings by Elton. It's interesting to hear his songwriting craft at work. I'll be rating each song according to my usual scale of 1 to 10. 1 for not very good at all, 10 for out of this world. And as we know, most songs tend to be around this sort of middle area. The first track is Come Back Baby, which Elton recorded with Bluesology. This is the original demo, and its UK release was in July 1965. This was his first single. Now, although the lyrics are fairly sort of basic on this one, actually, harmonically, it's fairly sophisticated. It's got a sort of cha-cha rhythm. I reckon it would have been quite a good song for somebody like Cilla Black to have recorded in the 1960s. So, pretty good start this. I'm going to rate it as fairly good. 5 out of 10. Track number 2 is Mr. Frantic. This was Elton's second single, released in 1966. It's got a brassy opening, very 60s sounding vocals, possibly his voice double tracked on this. It's a little bit ropey sounding, and nothing really to set it apart. You know, after Come Back Baby, this was a bit of a disappointment. Very much a B-side feel to this. I rate it below average, 3. Track number 3 is an interesting one because it's Scarecrow. This is the first song credited to Elton and Bernie. In fact, they hadn't even met when Elton recorded this one. We have a piano demo here. It's referred to in the song Curtains from Captain Fantastic. I used to know this old Scarecrow. So it's referring back to their very first song together. Now, there's very much a sort of a home recording feel to this. It's quite distorted, and Elton's piano style, though, is already very apparent on it, so it's interesting for that, and a sort of a psychedelic mood to it. So it's an interesting oddity, this one. I'd give it 3. Track number 4 is A Dandelion Dies in This Wind. This is also name-checked in that Curtains song, I Held a Dandelion, so that's referring back to this as well. We have a piano demo here. It's a little bit in the mood of the Elton John album, a track such as First Episode at Hyenton. That came to mind for me. The pace varies in this. The extra vocals on it perhaps slightly spoil it. Poor Elton here sounds as if he's carrying the worries of the world on his shoulder. You know, he's really worried about things, isn't he? If this was slowed down slightly and we got rid of the other vocals, this wouldn't be a bad song, actually. Quite an interesting one. I'm going to rate it as average and give it 4. Track number 5 is called Velvet Fountain, another piano demo. It's an Elton and Bernie composition. Apparently this was in the original set of lyrics that was given to Elton from Liberty Records. So this was in that envelope of original tracks. So that's really interesting, isn't it? We've got a confident vocal and piano on here. I'm not sure what a Velvet Fountain is. You might have your own thoughts on that. The lyrics are a little bit on the clunky side. Perhaps Burn is not his greatest moment. It's not really very good. I'm going to say disappointing too. Track number 6 is A Little Love Goes a Long Way. Another introspective love song that would have suited Cilla Black, I feel. There's a pleasant melancholic hook on the refrain, and it could be a decent song with some orchestration on this. It does go on a little bit, but fairly reasonable for me. I'd give it 4. Number 7 is all Elton's work. It's If You Could See Me Now, another piano demo. This has a feel of a little bit like a stage musical song, actually, and perhaps gives us a clue as to what Elton would be capable of later in his career. Some nice harmony on the verse, quite an interesting melody. It's all about getting back together in a relationship. I would say it's about a 3 for me. Mr. Lightning Striker Man is an Elton and Bernie composition. Quite a weird title as well, isn't it? I'm sure it all meant something at the time. It's kind of an Alan Price type number, this one. Sort of a honky-tonk feel to it, and these sort of offbeat characters being introduced. We could maybe compare it with something like Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite from the Sgt. Pepper album. For me, it's a 3. Number 9 is Countryside Love Affair. This is all by Elton. We've got childhood characters in here, perhaps pointing forward to Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, that sort of idea, Oz, Land of Oz, that sort of thing. It's an intriguing lyric and melody and does show promise of what might follow. There's a speeded up refrain and a little bit of echo on it, which might not suit all tastes. It's a 4 for me. Number 10 is I Could Never Fall in Love with Anybody Else. This is another piano demo. Lyrics are a little bit on the trite side. It's a rather basic songwriting, this one, and it's short. Not a great one for me. I'm giving it 2. Number 11 is I Get a Little Bit Lonely. It's a piano demo. It's all by Elton. It's an upbeat rocker. This was sort of a Motown mood to it, I felt. Decent melody on the verse. Refrain is sort of fairly simple, but not too bad. I'll give it 3. Number 12 is another bizarre track, The Witch's House. A piano demo. Again, this is all by Elton. It's a good quality recording, this one, actually. Much better than the previous one. We've got lines like me and Margie Dickinson in the delivery van going to the witch's house. Well, I'm sure it meant something at the time. It is rather bizarre. Melody's fairly pleasant now, actually. 3 for me. You're still keeping up with all these? Number 13, Get Out of This Town, a piano demo. It's by Elton. It's a rather thin recording, this, with a light lyric. Fairly acceptable refrain. The piano sounds very tinny on this one, and it has that sort of feel of a home recording. Still, it's interesting to have it. I'll give it 2. Number 14 is Year of the Teddy Bear. This is an Elton and Bernie composition, a very enticing title, isn't it? It's sort of a Beach Boys type vocal harmonies appear here with 3 voices. It's got psychedelic, rather impenetrable lyrics, such as The Yellowest Fellow Who Ever Walked Under the Sun. Not a great one, this one, for me. I'm going to give it just 1. Number 15, Where It's At, was written by Elton and Nicky James. Another piano demo. This has got a jaunty rhythm. It's about a fashionable person. Slightly catchy. It's not quite the Kinks though, is it, this one? I'm going to give it 2. Now, number 16 is an interesting one. Who's Gonna Love You? This is a piano demo written by Elton and Kirk Duncan. It's got a very 1960s jazzy intro, and it has a sort of Rolling Stones feel to this one. An unusual but quite creative melody. Reminds me a little bit of Elderberry Wine, which we'd encounter on Don't Shoot Me album. And I think this could have been on a later album, actually, such as Honky Chateau. It would have sat quite nicely in there. Elton was prepared to be bold here. He slowed down the pace at certain parts of this song. Quite a decent track, this one. I'm going to give it 4. Number 17 is Nina. This is a band version that went on to appear on Regimental Sergeant Zippo. Elton and Bernie have produced a bitter song, this one. And Nina, that's the way it's got to be. You know, this is about some sort of falling out in a relationship. It's almost pleading in the way it puts those words into the voice of the singer. There's plenty of interest in this track. It's an impassioned vocal with clarity, and it bodes well for listening to the rest of that album. The little bit of the dreaminess of Shooting Star in there from the Single Man album. So, things happening here which Elton will pick up on later and turn into really good tracks. For me, it's 4. Number 18 is Angel Tree. This was about a tree near Bernie's childhood home in Lincolnshire, and he used to go there to daydream. Now, this is referred to in later tracks. Burn Down the Mission refers to the angel in your tree, and Curtains also refers back to this one, Beneath the Branches. There's some nice acoustic guitar in this one, just a little bit of a hint of Daniel in this as well, possibly, but it's not a great track for me. 1. Number 19 is Here's to Next Time. This is the B-side of Elton's first single, I've Been Loving You. Mature harmonisation on this one, pleasant 3/4 time, a sort of a soul or Motown mood to the refrain. I've got a bit of tambourine in there. Not bad. 4. Number 20 is by Elton and Caleb Quay. It's Thank You for All Your Loving, band version. Decent listen, this one. Funky piano and a nice tight band arrangement to this. I'm Alone and Blue is kind of the theme to it. It stands up pretty well. Nice bit of electronic organ going on there as well. Slightly reminds me of something like Amy that we came to enjoy later on Honky Chateau, or even echoes of Empty Sky, the title track on this. For me, not bad. 4. Number 21, Watching the Planes Go By. This was also on Regimental Sergeant Zippo. Elton and Bernie write it. Confident piano, bass, drums sort of arrangement. Slightly sort of Peter Sarstedt feel to this song, I felt. You know, Where Do You Go To My Lovely? It's about someone who spends their time watching the sky. Their loved one is a long way off. Well, we can all identify with that sometimes. Interesting harmonies on the refrain. And it'd actually be quite good to hear Elton singing this now. You know, like Paul McCartney has sung some of his very, very early songs in recent concerts. You could try that, Elton, couldn't you? Just an idea. 4 for me. Track 22, When the First Tear Shows. Elton and Bernie composition. A rather bizarre first line to this about holding my hand. It feels like a Motown song. Some strong brass backing in this. Not bad. 4. The last track is Tartan Coloured Lady by Elton and Bernie. This again was on Regimental Sergeant Zippo. There's some weird sounds start this one off. And we've also got the harpsichord in there, which, you know, not everybody's favourite instrument. A little bit of a feel, again, a first episode at High End Turn with this one. Some string backing coming in. It's quite a pretty song. I compared it slightly with some of the material you might find on the Friends soundtrack album. It's maybe a little bit too intricate. It might be better off with a simple arrangement, but lots of interest in this one, and I would give it 3. So I've marked every track there, 23 of them. I'm not going to work out an average for this disc because it's not an album in itself. It's just a collection of songs. As I said before, it's good to have these songs, and they are of interest because they point forward, don't they, to other tracks that Elton produced later on. Of themselves, though, there's not a great deal there I might want to listen to again. You know, I always give it the sort of the car CD test. If I'm going to go somewhere in the car, would I pick up this disc to play on the way? And I think possibly the answer is no. And the answer is yes to most of Elton's albums. So, you know, this is one good one to store away, good one to listen to, but maybe wouldn't go back to it that much. What do you think? Have I missed anything about these songs, or any little stories you want to tell me about any of them? Do you like any of these songs and think they should have had a position on some of Elton's later albums? Let me know what you think. Always good to hear from you. See you soon. Don't forget, we're still standing.